Hello, friends. So happy to have you here with me today at Radical Joy. If you've been here before, welcome back. If this is your first time with me, well, I'm glad you're here. Each week, I'm here with you talking to myself about things that weigh on my mind and heart. Hoping if you're dealing with something similar, we can adjust both our perspectives as you listen. Hey, if you're struggling with something that needs immediate attention, please know that help is available. Just dial 988 nationwide in the U.S. to reach the Mental Health and Suicide Crisis Hotline. All of us here at CLW Studios believe that mental health is a vital part of our well-being. The more people I meet and the more places I go, the more I realize how important it is to make people aware of the fact that there is no shame in enjoying the parts of your life that are incredible. It's time for some radical joy, and this week the three fingers pointing back at me are for testing my mettle. I got a chance to speak with a friend of mine from high school days who also went to school with me when I moved on to university. He was a bit older than me, but we knew each other from band competitions and get-togethers and football games. Great human being, wonderful artist, fantastic musician, and now newly published second book author. And I love what he puts into the world. The books are absolutely fantastic. I'll make sure that I mention these in the notes whenever this hits the airwaves or the interwebs, whenever we publish. But it thrills me because it's so nice to know that I have friends out there that are so incredibly dedicated to what it is they do. Not only is he a married family man with children, he's also a musician and artist still to this day. He works a full-time job, and he finds time to put the story that came to his mind into the world. And he's got now two segments, I suppose, of a multi-volume set. 2 volumes, that's the word I wanted. And he and I got to chat a bit because as soon as it hits the shelves, I get my copy just as quickly as I can. Now, this most recent copy I had to get on Kindle. His hard copy I won't actually be able to receive before I leave for tour. But I've got it, and he wrote me, and he says, "Hey, have you read it?" I said, "No, I've been kind of crazy. I've been up to my asshole in alligators, if you'll pardon the vernacular, and if you won't, well, God bless you, because that's a really funny way of putting it." And he says, "I get it." He says, "I had to step in for a drummer with just a little bit of time for rehearsal for their 40th anniversary big hoodoo, get down, whatever." I was like, "Oh, wow. Okay, I can only imagine how stressful that must have been on you." He says, "Yeah." He says, "It really was quite a difficult situation." He says, I had all of these songs to learn, all these entrances. Also, in case you're not necessarily familiar, the drum is the backbone of the entire group, okay? Now, that is, they set the tempo, they set it, and they make sure, hopefully, they keep it consistent. When people get a little ahead or behind, they're there to make sure all the little ducks get back in a row. All those kind of things, 1. 2, if you're the guy coming in after this band has been playing music together for over 4 decades, those are some large shoes to fill, okay? So we talked about that in a little bit, and it was one of those things where that's where today's theme came from, and I thanked him for it. I said, this is going to be the next episode that I record because of our conversation today. You step up because someone sees something in you that they admire and they think that you're capable of doing it. The entire time that you're doing it, chances are very good there's going to be some anxiety, there's going to be some stress, some freaking out on, any number of levels. And then it comes time for you to do the thing. And that's what I love talking with him about it, because he told me, he says, I was really, really worried. He said, I lost a lot of sleep. I'd wake up in cold sweats, all these kind of things. Like, yeah, these all sound very, very familiar in rehearsals for shows, in rehearsals for covering someone who fell out last minute, who couldn't do the gig anymore. And now you have to swing in and do it when you weren't prepared as much as you would have wanted to be. It freaks you out. We have certain levels of things that add to that anxiety. Perfectionism, which is a killer. I want to do it perfectly. I want to do exactly like that person whenever you're not that person. And though, yes, you can exceed all expectations, you can absolutely crush it, you will never do it the same way, for the simple fact is that you're not the same person. Okay, well, that makes sense, right? Exactly. And that's not good or a bad. It's just literally just accepting the reality of the situation. All right. Another thing that we sort of commented back and forth about this, um, more than likely, if you work as hard as you do and take it as seriously as I think he does, I think that what you deliver is probably going to be head and shoulders above any expectation anyone had in that sort of situation. And pardon me, I get to a point now where I'm just a big old cheerleader for just about anybody and everybody who comes up to me with any sort of problem. And I'm starting to realize that that is in itself a bit of an issue. Not everybody needs rah rah sis boom bah. Not everyone needs that pump up, go get it, you're great, yada yada yada. Sometimes people just want to be heard. And I'm learning. I'm trying to make it better. Sometimes the presence is enough. And sometimes, people need a little bit of, hands in the armpits and pick them up off the floor like a rag doll sort of situation. You just got to play it by ear. You got to kind of feel it out. And, there's nothing in the world against asking somebody what they need. But to get back to all of this stuff where I'm, trying to pump the guy up and tell him about this, and I'm sure that he did a great job. He told me, he says, I did. He said people were coming up to compliment me. And the thing that he said that stuck out so boldly to me is he said, the favorite part of it is that I was really stressed out all the way up to the night of the performance. And then suddenly it all went away when I started setting up for the set. He said I was putting it together, the routine of it, the familiarity of it was really kicking in. And I knew that now it was just me and the preparation and the love for what I do. I was like, well, that's a beautiful way to look at it, isn't it? I've done all that I can do. Here I am. The moment has arrived. I can either freak out and stress out and be nervous, tentative, all these kinds of things that provide a less than full experience for the performer, not to mention the audience. Or I can just say, you know what? I did my dead level best. I put the work in for the time that I was given, and here we flipping go. And there they flipping went, and it was awesome. He said afterwards the praise just came in from every direction. Everyone was really pleased with the way things came out. The drummer that was supposed to be playing, I think he might have injured himself. He was actually at this as well. And he walked up and made sure to tell this person what a great job they'd done. And I tell this rather lengthy story just to make sure folks know there is a certain amount of wonderful, a certain amount of accomplishment and just swagger from taking something and doing your very best with it and then letting it out into the world. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be just like the original. As a matter of fact, the older I get and the less stupid I become, I don't want the original from someone else. I want a remix. I want a new take. I want a fresh perspective on a classic. And I mean this in like a genuine thing. Like in the Broadway world, there are a lot of revivals. And some of those things get a little far-fetchy. And I'm just like, oh, okay, great. This is wonderful that you're doing this. I appreciate it. Some of it feels very innovative, creative, and risky, brave, awesome. And I also know there's a lot of money on the line, so they can't go too crazy with it because there are investors and big money folks behind it that expect a certain expectation to be met. That being said, whenever we're talking about people on a different level, whenever we show up for the art, for the connection, for the community, yes, put your own spin on it. And while you're doing it, make sure you feel the pain of going through that process. One of the most terrifying dreams any actor could have is what they call the actor's nightmare. You show up to the play and you have no idea what's about to happen. You don't know your lines. You don't know the play. You don't know your lyrics. You don't know the blocking. In my most horrifying dreams, I was always naked as well. So, and funny enough, the least scary part of all of that was the nudity. Everything else for me was just like, I don't know this. I don't know any of the words. I know nothing. I'm going to be I'm gonna be walking out there in God knows how little time and just completely crash and burn. That's the nightmare. That's the anticipation, which is always gonna be so much worse than the actual. Raise a hand if your anticipation is almost always at least 3 levels worse than the actual thing. Does anybody else work themselves up into a fuzz like that? Like, "Oh, I gotta get this done. I gotta get this done. I gotta get this done." I transfer it from to-do list to to-do list to to-do list, and it just keeps getting transferred instead of getting done. And if I dedicated 11 minutes of my time to it, it could be in the rearview mirror. Ugh. I hate that. And I also know that's very, very much a part of who I am and the way that I work. Okay. Now then, to bring it back to what we're doing, putting in the effort and stressing and working and sweating and bleeding over something because of the joy of the piece, because of the desire to make this something memorable and delicious, because someone asked you to, who's special to you, that you want to make sure that you help them out, impress them, whatever it is. It's it's wonderful occasionally to sort of like put yourself through the paces, right? Isn't it? Yeah, I love it when that happens. I really do. Now, it stresses me out. It does. Right now, I have so much on my plate. It makes me crazy. And for whatever reason, the phone is blowing up. Hey, what are you doing? Hey, I need to talk to you. Hey, I need to meet with you. Da 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 da. And I'm like, I mentioned to a friend today, I said, I feel like I'm in the pressure cooker. I do not have time for this today. I can fit you in early on Saturday. Well, just let me know what frees up. I did let you know what is free. Saturday is free. Please read carefully before replying. I am ready to snap. And then there are times whenever you feel yourself in a similar stressful situation, but it's not because you've got too much going on. It's because you found yourself into a routine that you can't seem to find your way out of. You've kind of buried yourself into doing the thing. You've got work and dinner and cleaning and family and family and family. And you've got all these things that are crucial to our survival and our happiness and our joy and accomplishing our goals. And somehow it's worked its way into being something that becomes monotonous, or it starts to lose its color. It starts to get a little bland. It starts to go a little gray or beige. And so that's whenever the time comes in where we start to ask for, look for, the universe presents us opportunities in order to push the envelope, to press our luck, to see what exactly we're still capable of doing. And it's good to know that every once in a while. Also, I wanna say to all of us, me included, I'm saying us, when these things come up, please understand, if you're anything like I am, like the friend that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, you're going to put in the best effort. You're going to supply the practice, rehearsal, the creation, the juice, the mojo that is necessary to make that uniquely and specifically yours. There are a lot of things that play into it: talent, the amount of time given before you actually have to take the stage, or present whatever this is, or whatever the project may be. What I want you to understand is that what your expectation of completion and successful, what that may be, could quite possibly be something very different than what the person who requested it of you is expecting. Not to say you need to undershoot. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is all of the stress and the frustration and the anxiety that goes into preparing for something like that, and how you feel a little stretched thin or perhaps just a little bit short fused. Understandable. I get that. Part and parcel. I think that's a very natural way to feel whenever you put yourself under that sort of pressure. I also want to make sure that you remember that some of the most valuable, precious things in the world were formed under heat and pressure. Right? You get where I'm going with that. Exactly. You just need to keep continuing to remember that, okay, this is difficult. This is going to be tough. I'm training for this. I'm rehearsing for this. I'm preparing for this. And there's going to be, quite possibly some sleepless nights. Great. deliver the best product we can, also know that what you're delivering is probably well above the expectation. And that's great, especially when it comes to helping others. It's one thing if you're pushing yourself, which is wonderful. Make no mistake. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm saying that whenever you're helping others, there's an element of selflessness. There's an element of goodwill and kindness that goes into it that makes it that much more valuable to the person who is relying on you to deliver the product, and also to you, because it's not just the art that you're making. It's not just the bullet point that you are scratching off a to-do list. It's also helping someone you care about get the thing done. Right? Exactly. Now that I've pumped that up, now that I've made it a big thing, now that I've talked about my friend and how wonderful a job I think he did and how much I love his books, I haven't really gotten into the second one just yet because, like I said, I'm really, up to my eyeballs right now. That being said, should something like that happen on the more regular, where people come to you because they know that you can pull the baking out of the fire before it burns, but now you become the go-to guy for the emergency and not necessarily given the respect of ample time to prepare so that you don't have to hurt yourself or put yourself in a mental frenzy to get it all done. It's okay to say no as well. Okay? We've all heard that thing. It's like, your poor planning doesn't constitute my emergency. Yes. I would really like to drive that point home on the other side of this coin. Test your mettle, because it's always nice to know where you stand occasionally. It's like I always say, check in with yourself. Ask yourself the questions. Hey, is this still the goal? Hey, is this still what I want to do? Is this still enjoyable or nourishing to me, my creative spirit, etc.? Or has this passed over into something that I don't love, but now I feel like I can't give it up? If someone comes to you with something and you are relatively certain you either don't have the bandwidth or the time to put out the product that you would want to the quality level that you would feel comfortable offering, I personally stand in front of the class and give you permission to say no thank you. They always say no is a complete sentence. Yeah, it is a complete sentence. It is not a complete sentence for every request. And that may get me in trouble. Please let me explain. Sometimes I think when it depends on who's asking. For me personally, you set your own boundaries. For me, sometimes no is more than plenty. No, thank you. Had another friend reach out to me. He says, you will cuss somebody in a minute and just put them in their place immediately. And I'm like, who are you talking about? Who have you ever heard me cuss to put in their place immediately? Like, have I done it? Of course I have, but I just don't think it happens so frequently to be called out so boldly. He says, we're always doing that. I said, let me tell you something. Let me just drive this point home. Setting a boundary with someone who doesn't respect it and has disrespected it a few times in a row needs more clear language and more direct delivery. And so if you think that I am swearing at someone because that's just what I do, I'm going to need you to roll that back just a little bit. A, thank you for thinking that I am such an abrasive badass. B, please understand that I'm not trying to be a jerk to everyone who has something to ask of me, or to every person who steps like one toe outside the line. That's not a huge infraction. Persistent infraction, violation, overreach. That's whenever I start to get a little boil over, a little teapot steamy whistle. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. And absolutely, I'm Ed Bullard's boy. If anybody knows how to throw an expletive, if anybody knows how to deliver it with more syllables than God ever intended, I promise you it's me. There have been days, like my mama tried so hard to raise a good boy, and my daddy did a real good job of being an example of how you can let your hair down too. So if someone comes up to you and it is clear that they have had every opportunity to ask you, to give you ample opportunity to prepare, And for whatever reason, they just kept you in the wings or on the back burner until there was literally no one else to ask. And they use you as the emergency option. You owe that person nothing. You owe them nothing. I have, again, friend. Pardon me for saying these things so vaguely. I'm always so careful to try to keep everyone's anonymity. I have a friend that says that I have a savior complex. She's like, you like to step in and be the hero of the day. It's like, yes, I do. And what is wrong with that? And she laughs. She's like, well, there's really not anything wrong with the idea of it. It's just the fact that it usually requires so much of you to save the day that I fear that you are not giving yourself enough time to do the things that you love because you're too busy doing things for other people to get their ass out of the fire. It's like, how very dare you? How very dare you say something so incredibly truthful and candid and lovingly, appropriately phrased to me about me just trying to be a good guy. And she fixed it quick. She says, that's not being a good guy to you. Ooh, okay. All right. Shoot. And I want to encourage you to do the same thing. And this is going to be hard. This is going to be a very difficult assignment that I'm going to ask of all of us because we love that praise. We love being able to be the Hail Mary, right? I do. I love being able to step in and say, yeah, I got this. No problem. Are you kidding me? It's child's play. It's walk in the park. Cake. And what they don't see is the furious paddling of the feet underneath the surface of the water. All they see is the cool, calm, collected goose, not a duck. That's absolutely a goose because that's what I am for trying to be everything to everyone. Testing your mettle to make sure that you can still do a thing or to see how well you can do a thing or to see how quickly or how well you can learn it, do it, exercise it, perform it. If that's what you want to do, absolutely. I recommend it frequently. Once a year, put yourself to some kind of test to make sure you can do it. I keep a list of things that I want to get done in this year, and I write them each in my journal every single day. Book, concert, finance, fitness, travel. Those are the things I always want to make sure that I keep my energy focused on. I speak them into being. I continue to focus on making sure whoever's listening with a capital W knows that these are the things I want and will continue to work and must make consistent steps towards success in those fields, in those categories of my life. When I do that, I am often presented with opportunities to test my mettle, to see how quickly and how well I can do something like that, which is great. They always say that God is never going to give you more than you can handle. Great. And there are some days where I wish they just did not have as much faith in me as they do because I get tired, y'all. I get overwhelmed. And when I do, I'm starting to get cranky about it too. I just don't love it. My patience wears thin. All of our attention is pulled in 11 different directions at every moment of any given day. And so whenever you speak to someone and you tell them or you answer their question or you do it the best to your ability, sometimes people ask a question and what they're asking is not what they want to know. You know these people, right? They ask you a question, you answer the question, and they don't understand why you answered the question the way you answered the question. It all seems very confusing and very circus calliope situation. It's just, okay. It's so important to make sure that we give the attention where it is desired in as much as we can, and to make sure that if someone's not paying attention, that we get their attention about it immediately. Hey, you asked this of me. I'm delivering this to you. And you think that I sound harsh right now. I've asked you about this several times, and you are not giving me the information I need to help you. Clear communication is so crucial. I've been a wedding officiant now for a while here in Vegas. I've done several ceremonies this month, and it's been a lot of fun. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's just so funny to me because I think that the one thing that all of these folks always mention in any and all of their vows is clear communication. And we always hear that, communicate. Well, you got to be direct. You got to be this. Yes, and also people get their feelings hurt. and people think they know you well enough so that they can ask the question in a way that they get the answer that they want. It just plays into a lot of other things. And I say all these things to say this. I love that people want to come to me to ask me those kinds of things. I also want to make sure they know that I'm a very busy and important and impatient person. And I say those two things because, it's ha ha ha. It's also I'm really busy. I am leaving town in a few days and you need this of me, and you are not being efficient with my time whenever you say this is on a crunch. Let's get to the point. I'm over the pussyfooting. I'm over the soft play. Let's get right to the middle of it so we can both start working on getting this done for you. Oh, why are you mad? I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I don't have time for this. And it's okay if you don't have time for it either. And I think that's the fun part. It's always trying to make sure that you can help people, but make sure that you do it. You find a way to do it on both of your terms. You know? Yes, I want to help people. Yes, I want to be there for people. No, I don't want to be taken advantage of. No, I don't want to be your last resort. And then I end up getting a third of the time needed to do something really good. And though what I've delivered is great for the amount of time I was given to do it, I can do better. And I want to do better if this is something I want to participate in at all. And I think it's fair to you. And I think it's fair to the project and the person asking it of you if occasionally you have to have a teaching moment. I would have loved to have done this. You've been talking about this for weeks now. I thought so and such was doing it. We had a discussion about the next person who took it over because that first person couldn't do it, and you were worried about them because sometimes they flake out. We've all been in these situations, right? We've all found ourselves in these places where people continue to flounder and they never ask the person, well, I didn't want to burden you. Fair. That is 100% fair. I keep a lot of stuff on my plate a lot of the time. And I always try to be available to people who need something from me, especially if they're my favorites. And if you are, you're gonna know. I try to treat people well. I think it's pretty clear if you're one of my inner circle. Yeah, gladly. Just let me know what's going on. And give me the appropriate amount of time to get it done well. Here's the thing. If you continue to crank out things great, qualified by in the amount of time you are given, that will continue to enforce an expectation. When we set a boundary that says, I would have loved to have done this for you, but now I do not have the time to deliver the quality I would like to deliver for this project. I love it. I love you. I support you. I don't have the time to fulfill this for you the way that I would want it done. That's going to suck for whoever's on the receiving end of that reply. It's also going to set a new expectation for anyone asking something of us. Oh, right. Okay, yeah. We should ask him first if we want him to do it because we want to make sure he's got more than enough time to get it all done. Yeah. That's a great idea. Instead of, oh, we'll be fine. We'll just ask James tomorrow. We won't even bother with asking him tonight. We'll just wait until tomorrow just to, make sure that I can catch him while he's fresh. Don't reach for me when I'm fresh. Reach for me when we've got time to do it. Right? I don't know. It's just, this was one of those things where I loved the story. I loved hearing that my friends continue to step up. I love knowing that people in my circle are there for others and are the raunchy and naughty and vicious and caring and kind and loving and giving. They are such a huge melting pot of a mixture that I just love it. When I was growing up, it was very one way. Good people do this. Bad people do that. And the older I get, the more I realize that everybody gets to be a mix of that if they want. If somebody has all of one and few to none of the other, you should probably raise an eyebrow, give that person a wide berth, and perhaps leave the room. I don't buy it. I think everybody's got daylight and dark in them. I think everybody's got a light side and a dark side. And what I think we need to do is make sure we love it all, right? And whenever it comes down to something like that, do you want good or do you want easy? Do you want to ask someone because you think they'll do it better, or ask someone because you think they'll do it cheaper? Ask someone because you think they will do it because they get along with the other people involved in the project. Man, there are just so many things that play into it. The thing that I want to remind us to do is great. Test yourself, put yourself to the limit, make sure you continue to grow through all of it. I know I want to. I'm doing my dead level best to do that as often as I can. Also, please remember that you don't have to do that all the time. The only person I expect you to save is you. And I promise I'm going to work on doing the exact same thing for me. As always, it's a pleasure to be able to spend this time with you every week. I absolutely love it. If this is your first episode of Radical Joy, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so pleased that you took time out of your busy day to listen and join and hopefully get something out of this. I hope at some point during this, wherever you're listening, you were actually talking back while I'm speaking. It's like, oh, that's me. Or no, I don't usually do that. Great. If something that I've said struck a chord so soundly with you that you had to make some sort of comment, that's exactly where we want to live right here at Radical Joy. If this is not your first episode, welcome back. Thank you so much for thinking about what we're trying to do here, for joining us for another half hour of Radical Joy. If you're a review type person, please go to whatever platform where you're listening and leave us a 5-star review. Send us a screenshot. We'll make sure to put the contact info in the notes. And then that way we can send you some swag. We've got some fantastic Radical Joy merch. We would love to send you a little piece of us. Probably a sticker, something you can add to a journal, a water bottle, a laptop, a bumper, wherever you choose to stick it. We'd love to send it to you in offer of thanks for thinking enough of us to review. Also, please share with your friends, share with your colleagues, share with anybody that you think might get something out of any of the episodes you enjoy on Radical Joy. If you've heard something you like today, check the archive. Maybe there's something there from past episodes that you would enjoy and maybe get something out of. We have a lot of back episodes you can peruse at your leisure. As always, thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of Radical Joy. And please always remember, we love y'all. Thank you for taking time to share a moment of joy and hope with me. We're so grateful you're here. If this is your first time, take a moment to check out our archive. See if there's something else in there that fires you up, rekindles the joy in you. Hey, spread the word if you got something out of being with us today. We welcome your thoughts and suggestions. Now, I rarely run out of things to talk about, but if there's something I haven't covered that's on your mind or heart, I want to hear from you. To learn more about me and CLW Studios, follow the links in the show notes. Hey, don't forget, when you leave Radical Joy a review, be sure to send us a screenshot. We'll send you some kick-ass swag to show our gratitude. I am not a therapist or a medical professional. If you're experiencing a mental health emergency, please call 988 to reach the National Crisis Lifeline. This content and other content produced by CLW Studios and affiliated partners is not therapy, and nothing in this content indicates a therapeutic relationship. Any opinions of guests on this podcast are their own and do not represent the opinions of James or CLW Studios. Please consult with your therapist or seek one in your area if you're experiencing mental health symptoms. Everything in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Have a great one, and we will see you next week for another dose of Radical Joy. Love y'all.